Mario time! Hoo-hoo! Here we go!
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Design Over Time. This is a daily video game design series in which I talk about various design topics that come about in my everyday life. And yesterday, Super Mario Run came out, so I downloaded it and purchased it day one. It's an amazing game, and I want to talk about how it's designed and how it compares to other Mario games in the series, because a lot of people are talking about this game, a lot of reviewers got their hands on it, but I'm, as usual, disappointed in how they actually talk about what's good about the particular game. So we're going to do sort of a flyby analysis. We talk about Mario all the time. I talk about Mario all the time. So for the most part, I'm going to give you the highlights, and then I'm going to point you to articles that I've written in the past that explain what I'm talking about in further detail. So if you have any questions, make sure to check out those articles or leave me a question down below in the comments or get to me on Twitter. But this is going to be a relatively short video, so we're just going to hit it running. And I don't really have a fancy, capture card for capturing footage, so I can't really show you too much. But this is possible. I could show you like this.
Yes!
Not too bad. So that's about as good as I can do without a capture card. I'm going to be using footage from other people to show you what the game's like and point out various level design things. I'll take some screenshots too and throw that footage up on the screen so you don't have to worry about it. But we're going to roll right along to the points, and I want to start at the very sort of base level and talk about the controls and mechanics as I usually do. So let me switch over to our DO design wheel and show you what we're talking about. Alright, so let's start at the top. We're talking about mechanics, we're talking about inputs, and we're mainly talking about input actions. Super Mario Run is a game that you can play with one hand. That's kind of how it's advertised, and taking the auto runner genre and really keeping it simple by only letting the player jump. Yeah, the first thing I wanted to point out is that Super Mario Run is a little bit more complex than it looks. Sure, you can play the game with one hand, you can tap the screen to jump as you might expect, but holding the jump or holding the screen down gives you a higher jump, and that's pretty much standard Mario fare there. But you can also hold back on the screen. If you jump and hold and then drag backwards, Mario has a little bit of air control, and that little bit of air control goes a long way in making very precise jumps and changing the timing of your landings and how you hit enemies, and it really just gives you enough control to play the game like a Mario game. I played some other auto runners and your jump is either predetermined, you can't really adjust your horizontal control in the air, so just in the same way that horizontal control works in standard Mario platformers, it does a lot here in this game. Another thing I wanted to point out is that the basic control method is a lot like Rhythm Heaven for the DS, where you have tap for short jumps, you have hold for bigger jumps, and you also have a flick action, which is the drag I just kind of described for you. So touchscreens are really cool because even though they have a very straightforward interface, they can incorporate a lot of subtle, more nuanced control methods. So even though the game looks really simple and the interface is pretty simple, you got quite a lot of control when you need it, and I think that's a good thing. Going back to the wheel, so the next topic I wanted to talk about is the level design of Super Mario Run. And as we can see here, level design is a little bit more complicated of a topic than mechanics or controls. It pretty much encompasses enemy design, which you see here, power-ups and upgrades. It encompasses level elements, player mechanics, and other systems and rules that kind of make everything go together. So when we're talking about level design, we're going to be talking pretty high level. So let me give you the high level details of what Super Mario Run does, especially compared to other Mario games. So Mario is a really good gaming series to talk about layered level design. And when I talked about layered level design before, I pretty much defined it simply as creating a density of gameplay challenges, distinct gameplay challenges that all exist in the same simultaneous level layout. So we're looking for a density of challenges, and Mario Brothers has been doing it in this particular way since 1985, basically, where they give you some obstacles to jump over, they give you some enemies to worry about, and they give you some coins and power-ups to aim for. But each of these elements is sort of a distinct challenge, a separate layer, if you will. But the level design is really clever in how they put it all together. So by putting certain elements really close to each other or making you jump over an enemy, it kind of ushers you, it kind of pushes you through the most interesting parts of its content, and that's why Super Mario Brothers is such a great game. Super Mario Run continues in this tradition with layered level design, but it doesn't really do a lot with secrets. As you might imagine, not being able to control Mario and decide where you go, or even hit down on pipes to explore if you can go into them. That's not really a thing with Super Mario Run. So there's no secrets. The game still has multiple paths, so you're going to have some high, middle, low areas. You're going to have some high, low areas, some wall kick areas where you can jump up and go up higher, and it pretty much does the whole multiple paths thing throughout the entire game. I've only played 5 levels so far, so it's pretty much going to continue the trend that all Mario Brothers does, where it's not just so linear in where you go, but they give you some options even along the same screen size, the same screen view, as to where you can go and what you can do. And there's not really a lot of power-ups in Mario Run so far. I've only gotten the Mushroom power-up and the Starman power-up. So we're missing the classic Mushroom, Starman, Firefly from the original. We're missing all the other power-ups so far, but this game does other things. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but we're a little light on the power-ups. And so Super Mario Run does do a lot of new things with coins. Classic coins, the golden yellow coins that we've all grown up with. It pretty much puts them in areas that you might expect. One thing that's a big difference, a big change that you might notice from the other classic Mario platformers is that in this game, unlike all the others, coins are placed along the ground. So I've said before that Mario, the design of their levels and the coin placement pretty much encourages players to do riskier, better timed, more exciting jumps. And that's why you'll never see a row of coins on the ground where the player's already going to move anyway. They want you to jump and have fun. But in this particular game, it's a little different. And because Mario auto runs, they really wanted to encourage you to run on the ground in different ways, to time your jumps a little bit more carefully, and in that way the game's a little bit simpler. So you'll see some coins along the ground, and then sometimes they lead up into the air for specific jumps. Basically what I'm trying to say is you'll see a lot more coins on the ground. It's not too bad of a thing. It's just kind of how this game is designed. But the other point I wanted to mention about the regular coins is that there's something, I don't even really have a name for it, but it's coin consistency, maybe coin integrity or something like that. But from the original Mario Brothers, every single time you see a coin when you're playing throughout like the normal game, right? You can always grab every single coin you see without having to go back through the level multiple times to grab it. They arrange the coins in such a way where, as Big Mario, you can jump and time your jumps in a way to grab all the coins. You can, if you see it's sort of a cluster of 3, you can angle Mario into it and grab them all. And in that way, keeping that rule, that placement consistent, you always see a coin and know that it's an encouragement for you to jump better, jump more precisely, and aim for more skill-based play. This is something that's been fairly consistent across all the Mario platformers. Super Mario World kind of broke that trend, and that's why I'm like, Super Mario World. But just about every Mario does it. And this game, the verdict so far is that the coin placement is a little questionable. I think it still maintains the coin consistency, but there may be a trick to it, right? You may have to go through an area twice by using wall kicks or some other form of cutting back into the level to grab all the coins. You definitely have to use the drag back air control that I mentioned before in the controls. Or you might have to play as a different character in order to grab all the coins. And I'm not sure if the coin integrity, considering all those factors, is still 100%, but I'm leaning on yes. I want to say yes. So that's something I'll probably have to follow up on later. So just keep that in mind. The other thing that Super Mario Run does with its coin placement is basically says, okay, we got red coins, and red coins are the ones where you go through the ring and then you have to get 5 in a row in order to, beat the timing-based challenge. Those are still in the game, but for the most part, they're not really a big part of the level design. What you'll see in every single level is what we consider to be these new colored coins, and they come in 3 colors: pink, purple, and green, right? And there's 5 coins in every level, and they're placed in ways to challenge you to explore the level and be more precise and do whatever. They're kind of like star coins in the new Super Mario Bros. Series. They're kind of like red coins in Yoshi's Island. They're kind of like dragon coins, but as you might understand, they're the coins that are challenging you to grab them, and they're a little bit more rare than all the other types. So these colored coins aren't exactly layered level design. Every time you load up in level, you have to decide, am I going for pink? Am I going to load up the green? Or am I going to load up they're black. Am I going to load up the pink? Am I going to load up the purple? Or am I going to load up the black? coin placement, and then sometimes the level elements in the levels change. They may add an extra obstacle, extra wall or whatever. So that doesn't really count as layered level design, but it is clever how they use pretty much the same basic design over and over to create 3 distinct challenges. Yeah, so if you want to know more about what's going on with Mario, if you want to know in great detail how each of these design elements build up to create the sort of excellent Mario gameplay that we know and love, check out my article series here. I'll show you. I'll leave links down in the description, but I wrote an article series called The Measure of Mario. It's a 10-part series that I wrote in 2009. And as you can see from the colors on the side, it goes through just about every topic you might imagine from Mario. We got mechanics here, we got level design and level elements, level design, enemy elements, level design, power-ups and level design, power-ups, systems and roles, and difficulty design, and some extra topics. So it's a pretty comprehensive view on, I guess, 7 of the series' founding platformers, which includes Mario 1, Lost Levels, Bros 3, Super Mario World, New Super Mario Bros. DS, and New Super Mario Bros. Wii. So everything you want to know is right there. I'll even show you in this. It's a long series too. It's this many pages. Right there. And you know, this hard copy of my book, you can kind of see how thick this particular mini series is on Mario's design. So like, if you want to know anything about Mario, that's how much you have to read. But we'll move on. So the real question is, what kind of high level achievements does Super Mario Run do with its level design? And for the most part, we're talking about counterpoint here. So I mentioned it before and how the different layers of Mario's level design, enemies, obstacles, coins, and secrets, how they all seem to work together to create this really harmonious whole, where even when trying to interact with the one layer independently, you are often interacting with the other layers in dynamic ways. You're often pushed in certain ways to discover secrets or discover really clever placements of how all the elements work together. I call this counterpoint, and it's something that the Mario Brothers series does that pretty much no other platformer series does, and games in general don't really create such a density of clean and well-communicated gameplay challenges. But if you want to know more about counterpoint, if you want to know more about how I define it in different examples, then you can check out this article series here. This is part A in the series. I've probably mentioned it before on Design Over Time, but this is a long series, and it talks about the nature of linearity and linear game design, linear level design, more emergent level design, and how those two polar opposites can come together in something that takes the best of both worlds. And I argue that Super Mario Bros. Counterpoint style layered level design is the best of both worlds, and I talk about it here in part 8. So, like I said before, obstacles, enemies, and power-ups, and when they put it all together, it's something more unique and more special than just the parts by themselves. So, I'll drop the link down in the description for this particular article, but this is definitely something that's super important to understand. It's something that is pretty high level, and you can impress all your friends when you go to parties and be like, hey, check this out. I know how to talk about Mario's level design. Even though the game's been out since 1998, people don't really know how to describe what's special about it. I'm sure it'll be a hit. So Super Mario Run creates a wide variety of challenges, basically by borrowing and working off of the same foundation that Mario's been working off of for years. It's so much more than what you might expect from your typical auto runner. Overall, Super Mario Run is more layered and more nuanced than the auto-running stages in New Super Mario Bros. 2. Do you remember these stages? It's where you are transferring between levels when you're warping between them, and you go into this cannon, and it shoots you off in this crazy sort of midnight blue background. Well, the New Super Mario Bros. 2 canon stages are the auto-running stages for the game, and I thought they were really clever. I thought that just like Super Mario Run, they had different layers, like a high road, a low road. You can sometimes jump off of enemies. There was red coins in these modes. But overall, you could never control your horizontal speed in these auto-running modes. And I think that made the entire auto-running sections in New Super Mario Bros. 2 a lot more limited. And even though you could bring power-ups into that mode, like the Tanuki Tail, which allows you to fly, which is kind of crazy for an auto-runner, or your Fire Flowers, overall, there wasn't a lot of timing variety. So the game only really had 4 or 5 of them, maybe 6 in the entire game. And that was the right amount, I think. Super Mario Run seeks to do a whole lot more with a whole lot more, a wider range of level challenges and level elements to play with. And one more thing that Super Mario Run does, there's multiple characters, and this is something that we really haven't seen a lot of in the 2D platforming series of Mario. New Super Mario Bros. U and New Super Mario Bros. Wii let you play as multiple characters, but they all played the same, right? It wasn't until Super Mario 3D World, for the most part, that the different characters had different attributes. Toad is faster, Luigi jumps higher, Peach can float, Rosalina can double jump, things like that. So we're seeing a lot of the same things happening in Super Mario Run. So far, I only have Toad, but I know he runs faster. Every time he gets hit, he dies, so he has to kind of use one of his bubbles to reset. And he's always large Toad, so you never have to worry about, like, am I small Mario or large Mario? He's always large Toad. So there's definitely some give and take there. There's definitely a design space for them to play around with. I think there's going to be like 5 or 6 characters, including Yoshi, Luigi, Peach, Toad, Mario. That's at least 5. So that's something I'm looking forward to playing in the future. So overall, Super Mario Run is basically just what you might come to expect from well-designed Mario 2D platforming gameplay. Even though it's one touch and even though it's on a mobile phone, they're using all the same elements, they're using all the same enemies, they have all the same interactions for the most part. Like, you don't have to double jump off of a Koopa to kick its shell and send it running. There's tiny little compensation, little tweaks to the design that they make here and there that make the entire experience flow a little bit better. But for the most part, the level arrangements are arranged like a standard platforming level. You might even think to yourself like, whoa, this could be a normal level in a normal Mario game. And you might even be able to recreate some of these levels in Super Mario Maker just to see how they would play with the full standard Mario controls. But that shouldn't be really a surprise to most of us. We all know that you can pretty much play Mario games well by holding forward, holding the run button, and just timing your jumps accordingly with like a little bit of control here and there just so you don't die. But Mario games are tuned so that if you run through them as fast as possible, all the enemies still spawn in their correct timing. You don't have to make blind jumps and assume that there's going to be land there when you see a pit. Like, everything has clear feedback. Everything has is well tuned for you to engage in a fair and interesting gameplay challenge. So it shouldn't be any surprise to us that Super Mario Run, a game that they force you to move forward through these levels at a constant rate, can still give us that really interesting, really layered and nuanced Mario gameplay that we've known for years. But I wanted to touch real quick on some of the other small design elements I feel like they changed and tweaked just to make this handheld version, the Super Mario Run gameplay, smoother. And one major thing is you vault over small enemies. So if there's an enemy that's 1 brick high, or an obstacle that's 1 brick high, or a pit that's 1 to 2 bricks wide, Mario just runs over them, vaults over them without taking damage. So this is probably the biggest change that you might see between it and all the other Mario platformers. But it's still pretty interesting because now you are worrying about timing your jump off the enemies instead of onto the enemies. So there's still some timing-based challenges. You can still die from running into a Goomba. If you jump at them from below or sort of at an angle, or they fall on you, you'll still take damage. So it's not like these enemies are completely harmless. You'll see various blocks placed in the field that change the way you move, from the stop to the long jump to the reverse jump blocks. Those are just there to give you a little bit more control. And it's pretty interesting that they're limited in some ways because they're built into the environment, but in other ways they scaffold and encourage you to do certain things in an interesting way. So when you see a long jump, you know you're not going to die if you fly into a pit. So when you get hit in this game, instead of dying and doing checkpoints and doing all of that, there's really just a really elegant bubble system. A bubble system similar to what we've seen in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, New Super Mario Bros. U, and Super Mario 3D World. When you get hurt, you get put into a bubble, and then you start gliding backwards along the stage. And in this particular game, you can bubble yourself intentionally, which you could do in the other games in co-op. But in this particular game, when you bubble yourself, you just start sliding backwards, and you can actually go back and do multiple paths by popping the bubble and then trying the area again. And I feel like the bubble resource is both your health, right? It allows you to take a certain amount of hits, or it's a resource for you to plan multiple routes and more complex routes through the level. So it's one simple element that gives you a defensive and an offensive bonus. Super Mario Run so far is shaping up to be a better coin rush mode than New Super Mario Bros. 2. I really love coin rush mode from this game. I feel like It encouraged players to rehearse levels when they otherwise might not want to. I feel like the high score system by using coins was really elegant, really good. I feel like the Street Pass feature was pretty neat because you walk past people, you see their scores, and then you crush them and steal their coins. I felt like all that was good, including the DLC packages, which has some of the most interesting, the hardest Mario platforming levels to date. The official levels, of course. We're not talking about that indie junk. But I feel like Super Mario Run is poised to be an even better coin rush because it really makes it a lot easier for people to engage and play in the high score chase. The leaderboards are based on your friend list and they update automatically. Instead of playing 3 levels at a time in order to get 1 score, you can go for a high score on each individual level. So that encourages more people to attempt high score. It means you have to do less to get your score on the mark, so that's a little easier for people to participate. You're probably going to get more players competing for a high score in Super Mario Run than you did in New Super Mario Bros. 2. So yeah, if you want to know more about what I think the best way to enjoy Mario games is, or more about how I feel regarding New Super Mario Bros. 2 or Coin Rush mode, or the best way to play Mario games, check out this article that I wrote right here. New Super Mario Bros. 2, a game design medley. And this is where I just talk about an interesting metaphor between music and level design, and music and series that go for a long time, and how people feel like they're tired of it, but there's still more interesting things to dig out of them, and what it takes to get these interesting things to come out, right? I talk a little bit about Coin Rush here, and you can read that article for yourself, but I'm not going to dwell too much on it right now. So that was my quick assessment of Super Mario Run. I'm still at the beginning of the game. I'm still having a lot of fun. I played it for a few hours and I've only done like 5 levels. So there's a lot of content there if you are interested in actually refining your skills and digging deep into platformers. And I'm kind of disappointed at all the reviewers that have seen the dock points to the game for being too short, kind of ignoring the fact that it's a $10 iOS game in the first place. It's not your typical $40, $60 full-fledged Mario title. So I really don't think they know what they're talking about. I really don't think they can explain what's great about Mario, or even sort of showcase a wide variety of skill or a deep understanding of its level design. So if you enjoyed this talk and you enjoyed the way that I talk about Mario, play Mario, or have enlightened you in any way about what's great about this classic style of level design, please share this video and leave me a comment down below. But this has been your episode of Design Over Time. I will see you guys next week. Take care. Oh, my music died.